Hey there, I'm Pharr. I'm an evidential spirit medium, and I'm so glad that you're joining me for this free training, 3 essential practices to strengthen your skills as a medium. Now, if you're watching this, you may already be moving forward on your spiritual journey as a medium, or perhaps you've either just gone through or you're going through a spiritual awakening and becoming aware of your gifts for the first time. And maybe you're wondering, how do I strengthen my skills so that I feel incredibly confident in my abilities? The other question is, what does it take to consistently give powerful readings that provide healing to a sitter? You're in the right place, and I want to make sure you know that if you're just becoming aware of your innate, intuitive, and mediumistic skills, or you're already on your spiritual journey as a medium, and you're so ready to take the next step to strengthening your connection to spirit. You're also in the right place if you're ready to discover what will help you feel like a confident medium and develop your skills. And of course, you're in the right place if you've wondered what other mediums practice regularly that allows them to bring through jaw-dropping validations. Here's the thing. I know as well as anyone that mediumship can feel tricky and elusive at times. Maybe, like me, you've had some challenging readings or experiences and lost confidence. Maybe you felt nervous to take that next step and start using your skills more. What will your friends and family think? Will people say you're making it up? What if you get captured by a dark force? Perhaps you are someone who struggles to trust whether what you receive is from spirit or just in your imagination. Or maybe you feel like you've been practicing at the same level for a long time. You've plateaued and you're just not sure what you need to do to advance your skills, even though you really want to. Well, here's what I'm sharing in the next 15 minutes. Number one, I want to talk about the top thing that I continuously focus on to receive spiritual impressions as clearly as I can. How to make high accuracy readings a more consistent experience in your practice. What most mediums don't practice that could greatly advance their mediumship. So let's dive in right away. Let's talk about the number one thing I continuously focus on to receive spiritual impressions as clearly as I can. I'll give you the answer right away. It's becoming a clear channel. Okay? You are a vessel, and the better your vessel is working on all levels, the better you'll be at speaking to spirit. So the question is, great, Mel, how do I become a clear channel? I'm sure you won't be surprised that the first thing I talk about is meditation and sitting in the power, 2 things you likely have heard of. 2 very different things, by the way, but that's a whole nother presentation. Meditation and sitting in the power are 2 things that help train our minds to be clear and open so that our bias gets out of the way. But this isn't the only practice to do, although I highly suggest you have a regular ritual of using both of these exercises. I want to share that physical health for some people is a huge piece of the puzzle, and I happen to be one of those mediums. When it comes to being a clear channel, you've got to test out what works for you. But for me, nutrition makes a huge difference. And you may not like to hear this, but I happen to be gluten-free, dairy-free, and I avoid alcohol and lots of sugar. And I will tell you that when I eat cleanly like that, it's a whole different game. I can hear spirit so much clearly in whatever way they communicate to me. Hydration is important as well. We're mostly water, and water actually isn't a great conductor of energy. But when I do readings, I actually drink water with electrolytes in them. So magnesium and calcium, things such as that. When water has those minerals in it, actually becomes a better conductor of energy. So you can always test that theory out for yourself. I definitely move on a regular basis. I think this is something that keeps my energy in balance. And as mediums, we're constantly working with energy. And then, of course, sleep. Now, I honestly don't think I know a medium who doesn't read better when they get adequate sleep, but I know way too many humans who don't get enough of it. So physical health is a huge part of being a clear channel. Another thing that I feel is absolutely huge is having a peaceful home environment, or at least a peaceful space to read in. But In your life, mediumship calls you to do your work and find peace and find joy. And so starting in your home to have it peaceful, clean, decluttered makes a huge difference to some people. Although I'll tell you right away, I can read pretty well when my office is a mess. Now, this next piece about being a clear channel is something that I wish was talked about more in the mediumship industry, if you will, or realm. And that is self-development and emotional health. Now, I've definitely had tutors who talk about self-development being hand in hand with mediumship, and I couldn't agree more. When we walk around in our life with lots of baggage we haven't dealt with, we just are more biased mediums. That's all there is to it. You can look into any kind of practitioner or support that works for you. There's no one right way. But for me, therapy and energy work are my top two things. In fact, when I teach my students mediumship, I always tell them, as you start doing this work more consistently, I highly recommend working with an energy worker to get all the stuff subconsciously that you're not aware of. I do therapy every week. I actually use EMDR with my therapist. That's something to help process all the emotional cuts and bruises and all kinds of things that happen as we go through our day-to-day life. Maybe you like journaling, maybe you like tapping, whatever it is, I highly encourage you as a medium to do your work and to become a more clear channel by working on self-development along with mediumship. Because if you don't, I promise that you will be held in your mediumship development. Maybe by this time you're wondering why you should trust or listen to me. That's a really good question. I didn't pop out seeing dead people as a kid, at least not that I can remember. I am not the medium who has been heartbroken by the loss of a close loved one and then fell into mediumship. I've been extremely lucky in this life so far. I can promise you I'm not the medium you'll learn from who's been doing this the longest, although I realize now I've been using the clairs and hearing the whispers of spirit my whole life and making decisions from that connected place. My mediumship journey only began at the end of October 2022. It was December 16th in 2022 when I was finally convinced I had significant abilities that could be developed. So I asked a stranger to come to my home and sit with me so I could see if anything would happen. 30 minutes later, I'd given a highly accurate, full-blown reading, and I call it the holy shit reading. The rest was history. I decided to do life how I always do it, go in full-fledged and give 100 readings for free to help develop my skills. Well, within weeks, I was getting 12 emails or texts or voicemails each week begging for a reading. It was slightly overwhelming. So I decided to jump on a plane 3 weeks later to Arthur Findlay College. I went to study mediumship with who my research had told me was the very best. It was only 7 months in discovering my gifts that I started working professionally. But maybe you're wondering, what did I do before that? Well, I was an online marketing strategist. I built a 7-figure business helping women develop 6-figure and beyond service-based businesses so they could work from home and have more freedom in their lives while making a powerful impact. But the biggest reason I'm sharing all this with you, besides letting you know a little bit about me, is to point out that I've been a teacher and entrepreneur for over 15 years, since 2009. I am an expert at breaking down stuff that's most difficult for people to learn into steps that allow them to make significant progress, but not in a cookie cutter way, in a way that brings out the best in them. In fact, I've always developed what I call frameworks that give my clients guidance about where to focus next in a way that feels like them. People who know me have always said that I was good at a lot of things quickly or that I could create great results in a fraction of time, almost out of thin air like magic. But what I realize now after going through my first conscious spiritual awakening that woke me up to my gifts as a medium is that I'm totally a normal everyday human, just like everyone else. It's just that I've been using a really strong connection to spirit and moving in my life from that connection. So, of course, I developed a mediumship development framework that features what I call the 5 C's, and I want to walk you through it really quickly. So the first C is being a clear channel. That should sound familiar at this point, but it's really about learning how to clear your mind so that you can hear the whispers of spirit as accurately as possible. The next one is about communication in the clairs. This is learning the language of spirit. We communicate with spirits through what we call the clair senses that are associated with chakras. And so when I work with my clients, we're constantly isolating one of these clairs at a time to expand their communication toolbox, if you will. Third, I'd have to point out is confidence. Now, while confidence is important in any industry and in any job, I can't think of one that is more important than mediumship. The trust that you have to have in self and in spirit is huge. And so I work with my clients on a regular basis to give them exercises that not only help them learn the language of spirit, but that force them to grow their confidence, which is a thing that a lot of people have a hard time figuring out how to do. The fourth C is community. Mediumship can be really isolating. So I have development circles where mediums come together and learn together in a supportive environment. And just being able to know that you're normal, that you're not alone, that the sensations or experiences you're having are things other mediums are experiencing too, is just the very start of how much community can be a game changer. And last, command of craft. Command of craft is really powerful. Command of craft, I'll keep it really simple, is about two things. It's about using your gifts often. That's why I have development circles where mediums can practice. But it's also about strategically looking at where you uniquely as a medium can focus to expand your gifts. So I'll talk about that a little bit more later. In the meantime, let's talk about how to make high accuracy readings a more consistent experience in your practice. Well, the answer to that is to develop your spirit communication with the clairs. And of course, this should also sound familiar because it's one of my 5 C's. So we have to learn to speak the language of spirit, and mediums, like I said, use the clairsenses to do this. And hear me out, because you may think, of course, I already know we use the clairs as mediums. Yes, but how do you work on developing and strengthening them? Think about traveling all over the world and only being able to speak one language. It's a lot harder to communicate with people who speak other languages. The more clairs you work to strengthen, the easier it will be to communicate with spirit. And the thing you've got to know is that every spirit communicates differently in different ways, just like every incarnated person communicates differently. Some will give you more images, while others you'll be able to hear better. And still, you might sense or feel more things from one spirit than the other. In addition, our mediumship never stays the same. You'll notice as you move forward in your development, while you were using clairvoyance, you're suddenly using clairsentience and claircognizance more often. So what I do in my development circles is I consistently work with my clients to isolate and strengthen each of your clairs one at a time with effective exercises. And then right after we do these exercises with the clairs, I put them straight into a safe space to practically apply that clair during a reading. And it's a huge key to strengthening your skills and more efficiently. Let's talk next about what most mediums don't practice that could greatly advance their mediumship. Now, this is the 5th C that I told you about, command of craft. And I'll repeat again and keep it simple what command of craft means. So, number 1, it's about using your skills as often as you can. But 2, it is about understanding where you are called to develop your gifts next. And something that I call review can help answer this question. What do I mean by that? As a medium, every 1 to 3 months, depending on how fast I'm making progress, I sit down and I ask myself, what's been happening lately in my mediumship practice, in my readings? Where do I feel called to hone my focus just in 1 or 2 places? Because a lot of the time you'll go into a development circle or with a teacher and they'll put you straight into a reading, but they're not challenging you to focus your mind specifically in one direction. And therefore, it takes a lot longer for your toolbox to expand in terms of how well you can communicate with spirit. So here's some examples. When I go into review, I say, what do I want to work on? And for this first example, I might say, well, I really want to work on identifying the communicator. Once I go to a reading, right away, I want to know who's coming through. I want to be able to say, your dad's here. Well, okay, that's what I want to work on, but how? And how often do I need to practice this? And for how long? Well, here's an example. Perhaps you want to try the clairvoyant tactic of using a family tree and say, Spirit, show me on the family tree who you are. And then what I'll do is I will review a family tree 2 times a week so that it's really, really fresh in my mind. And I'll do that for a month. And then I'll see what happens with my ability to identify the communicator. Here's another example. Let's say that you want to get better at understanding how a spirit has passed. Okay, well, how are you going to do that? How often and how long? Well, while this might sound morbid, I look up 3 new causes of death each week, and then I create symbols for them. And I would do that for at least a month, but a lot of times I might do this for 3 months. And then I'll look back and realize, gosh, I'm getting a lot better at understanding how a spirit has passed, which is incredibly important in many, many readings, especially those who weren't sure how their loved ones passed or didn't get to say goodbye. Here's another example. Let's say, like many mediums, you want to increase your confidence in your connection to spirit. Okay, well, how are you going to do that? And how often and for how long? An example of this might be, okay, I'm going to sit in the power for 4 times a week, and I'm going to do an exercise that's about getting used to hearing no. I'm going to do that exercise once a week. And I'm going to do that for a month, which, by the way, is a really powerful way to go about this. So I hope this helps you see how you can break things down instead of just trying a little bit of everything all at once and making less progress. Now, you're here because you either already know or you suspect that you have gifts as a medium, and you know that you can strengthen them, but you want the support and guidance to take them to the next level. What I'm sharing is not something that only the select few with spiritual gifts can benefit from. It isn't about being a cookie cutter medium either. And it's not a pie in the sky promise that you'll be a famous medium overnight or develop your skills at light speed. I can promise you that. But what I am sharing is an effective and powerful framework to make sure that you're focusing on the mechanics of mediumship and getting the entire spectrum of support so that you can grow your gifts in the way that is unique to you. So I wanted to share with you about my mediumship development circle that I've mentioned a couple times. And the great news is that I base my teaching off of my mediumship development framework that I just shared with you, which is what helps my students make incredible progress. My development circle is 12 weeks. So over the course of these 12 weeks where we meet weekly, you will learn a lot of powerful skills. You'll learn how to strengthen your blend with spirit so that you can feel more connected when receiving spiritual impressions. How to develop your ability to use each of your clear senses so that you can expand your awareness. You can have more ways of sensing spirit. You'll learn how to quiet your mind and become a clear channel so that you can tell the difference between your own mind and spirit. And you'll learn how to grow your confidence as a medium so that you can more easily trust yourself, your connection, and the messages that you are receiving. How to understand the most impactful practices and exercises for you when it comes to developing your own unique gifts. And how powerful and inspiring it is to be in community with other like-minded, accepting people who are committed to developing their spiritual gifts as well. So here's what's included: 12 weeks of mentorship with me via my mediumship development circles, continuous clair strengthening exercises, weekly opportunities to read and practically apply all of these exercises in a safe, supportive, and comfortable setting. I have Q&A every single week in class so you can get your burning questions answered, and we can have some good discussions that help you progress and process. And access to 2 of my Sitting in the Power meditations to help you develop as a clear channel during the course of the development circle. And this is all delivered via 12 90-minute sessions that happen weekly. The investment for this 12-week development circle, if you pay in full, is $555, or I have a monthly payment plan over 3 months, so $216 a month. For the first 5 people who enroll every quarter, you will get a bonus 30-minute private coaching session with me. So if you'd like to enroll and you know you want to be a part of this, you can head over to mediumshipwithmel.com/learn. And then if you scroll down on the page, you're going to see an enroll button just like this. Once you click on that button, it will take you through a registration process form where you will answer some questions and it will show you current dates for the program. Now, I do have limited spots, and when I've enrolled this in the past, it always sells out. So I take 8 to 12 people per circle, So hopefully there will be room for you this time if that's what you feel pulled to do. I want to thank you, regardless of whether you join me in my circle or not, for coming today. I know there are a lot of ways that you could spend your time. So thank you so much for joining me, and I wish you all the best in your journey as a medium.